The ASUS ZenFone 2 is a $300 off-contract smartphone with 4 gigabytes of RAM. That's right, 4 gigabytes of RAM and a bunch of other pleasing specs as well. I just got this guy here in the studio, so let's just go ahead and unbox it and see what it's all about. Hey, what's going on, tech enthusiasts? BoHD here, and this is the ZenFone 2 wrapped up in some plastic. We have some little circular cutouts for the battery, the 4G LTE, FHD display, Bluetooth, and camera icons. And I did go with the red version because it's the most flashy and attractive version in my opinion, and let's be honest, it's going to make for a better video. Now, this is one of the harder boxes to open. There's a little plastic flap sticking out that makes you think, oh, I should just pull on that to slide out the phone. But no, it doesn't work that way. You kind of have to go beast mode on it until it lets up and decides to slide out. I kind of screwed up the neat presentation of this unboxing by going beast mode, but hey, you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. Alright, so yeah, I got this thing opened, and this is the red ZenFone 2, which I'm going to set off to the side for a moment, because underneath of the ZenFone 2 is a user guide and a warranty card with a couple different languages. We have a micro USB charging cable here, which is pretty standard as you guys know. There's also an 18-watt boost charger, which can charge the ZenFone 2 up to 60% in 39 minutes, kind of like turbocharging. So I'm really happy that's included here in the box, but that's about it for the contents of the box. Now, as you guys saw earlier, I did get about half the plastic off the ZenFone 2 from the unboxing, but there is some other stuff that I do want to mention before I rip off the plastic entirely. There's mention of the 13 megapixel camera sensor, the FHD IPS display, the 64-bit quad-core processor, and ZenUI. We'll take a closer look at that stuff in a moment, but I do want to remove the plastic. I found that this is a very solid device in the sense that it's pretty darn hefty or heavy, and it does have a 5.5-inch display, which makes it take up a pretty good amount of space in your hand. Now, in terms of button placement, there's nothing on the left-hand side or right-hand side of the device. We do have a 3.5mm headphone jack and a power sleep on-off button up top, which is a terrible place for a sleep-wake button. It's seriously awkward to press and reach. There's a micro USB port on the bottom. The front is home to a 5 megapixel camera sensor, the 1080p 5.5-inch IPS display, and then the capacitive touch navigation buttons for the back, home, and multitasking commands. On the back, we do have a 13 megapixel camera sensor with an f2.0 aperture, which should help it take some pretty good low light images. There's also a dual LED flash and volume up and down buttons. We have an ASUS logo, an Intel logo, a ZenFone logo, and the speaker grill, which is located on the bottom. Now, obviously, this is the red back cover. It's plastic, but it's not too slimy. It kind of has a brushed metallic feel behind it, but it's obviously not. It is plastic. There is some texture, you know, it's all right. The best part about it is that it is removable and it will give you access to the MicroSD card slot and dual SIM card slots. Now, the display is a 1080p panel and it looks pretty good indoors. It has some good viewing angles, but the brightness really just isn't there. So outdoors, it's going to be really hard to see. It's also not very saturated or contrasty. It's a pretty average 1080p panel. Not terrible, but not exceptionally great at all. Like I mentioned earlier, this is the $299 version, which has a quad-core 2.3 GHz 64-bit Intel Atom Z3580 processor and 4 GB of RAM. You can get the same device, but with a 1.8 GHz quad-core processor and 2 GB of RAM for $100 less. But of course, I wanted to get the maxed out version, and you know, based off first impressions, it is very fast and very smooth. Now, I haven't actually used all 4 GB of RAM just from testing this device, but multitasking is very smooth and fluid. I haven't noticed any sort of hiccups or stuttering at all, which is always a very good sign. We are running Android 5.0 Lollipop, which is always a good thing. I do love me some lollipops. The ZenUI is pretty simple, but it does have a ton of customizable options, some ranging from practical or useful customizable options to like random customizable options, like the ability to change the format of a screenshot from PNG to JPEG format. There's a feature that allows you to use this device with gloves. There's also a one-handed mode. I do also really like the double tap to wake and sleep, which helps me kind of forget about the terrible placement of the sleep power button up top. There is also a lot of bloatware on this device, a ton of crap from ASUS that can't be uninstalled. There is some other non-ASUS software on here that can be uninstalled, so that's good, but it shouldn't be pre-installed to begin with. It just kind of clutters up the entire phone and doesn't make for the best possible experience. I'm going to be sure to test the camera and the battery life for my full review and my comparison videos, but there is a 13 megapixel camera sensor here and a 3000 milliamp battery inside of here. So in theory, the ZenFone 2 should be capable of capturing some great images and having a long-lasting battery, but sometimes that's not always the case. But this is the ZenFone 2, one of the best spec'd smartphones for the price. Let me know what your thoughts are of this device in a comment down below. Don't forget to hit that like button if you guys enjoyed this video. Maybe subscribe if you're brand new. But as always, I'm BoHD. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. See ya!